Hello and welcome to the 5 things that I think Pro Evo need to improve on before PES 2022. So first off, let's dive into the corner of the screen and get this underway with some PES in the background. So number 1, visualization. The introduction of licensed stadiums in PES has increased its visualization many-fold. It's been absolutely brilliant in terms of match days, before the match days. I think it was about 2018 they started licensing stadiums and getting them built into the game, which is absolutely incredible. The Emirates Stadium is present, looks incredible. The Clock End is shown off in all of its glory. The Sir Alex Ferguson stand at Old Trafford, the panning views of Barcelona's Nou Camp. It's incredible visuals. However, it could be so much better after that phase, as there has been improvements, as I said, to PES, and it can make its visualizations even better. And I'm talking about when the players line up, when you have the handshakes, when they come out of the tunnel, when the game is loading, they could have the warm-up, sort of like what FIFA does. It's all very the same. When the match ends, the game is the same. The visuals are the same. What the players do are the same. When you win a trophy, whatever trophy it is, the players celebrate it in the same way. I'd just like to see some improvements in the visualization of those sorts of cutscenes. And that brings me on to the Master League as well. Visualization in the Master League. You need to have the improvements that show and involve, well, not really show, that involve the viewer in more detail, immerses them in the game. And I don't think you quite get that in PES. FIFA's always been ahead in terms of that. And with the forthcoming new generation consoles, they're going to be more powerful. They're going to have abilities to do more graphics and better graphics. I hope we see improvements in the way the lineups happen, the way that the screenshots that are shown of who's playing where, and the team formations and the cutscenes in the Master League, and all of those things I've listed. I really hope that they get an improvement in PES 2020. Obviously, the modding that you can bring into PC does help that out, and PlayStation as well does help that out in what you can do. But I just really hope that those lineup scenes really improve in terms of the visuals, the graphics, the cutscenes, everything like that. Improve it. That is number 1. Number 2, atmosphere. I feel like there's only, you play with certain teams in PES 2021, and it was the same in PES 2020 and the same in PES in 2019. The only atmosphere that is generated is if you're playing with a team that's licensed. So, for example, in PES 2020 or 2021 even, Man United are licensed and they have some Man United chants. Arsenal are licensed, they have some Arsenal chants. But that's about it. Like, if you play in South America, in Australia, I was going to say, if you play in Argentina or Brazil and South America, there is a bit of a better atmosphere in the game because maybe all of the clubs are licensed for the Brazilian and the Argentinian league. But the problem you've got is that when you step away from the licensed teams, the atmosphere in the ground isn't there. And again, it's not as immersive as the game could be. Why not just have someone banging a drum, just generic chant noises in the background that make you feel like you're at a football game? You get the ooh and the ah when someone shoots and it goes close, but it's all pretty rubbish. The crowd seem asleep until something like that happens, and when it does happen, the crowd noises they implement are pretty rubbish, and that needs to be improved to increase that immersiveness for the user and the player. The atmosphere needs to be better. The license of La Bombonera, a prime example. The Bombonera is a fantastically loud stadium. The home of Boca Juniors. It's great to have it back in PES. But the intro to that when you're playing in it as Boca Juniors and the atmosphere is really, really good unless you're doing a friendly or an exhibition game. Now, I can understand why they've done that, because at exhibition games and friendly, it's not going to be as raucous, but it's a game. We want it to be and feel immersive and see these graphics. You'll see the difference in the videos now, and the two differences. One of them is a friendly game against their biggest rivals in Argentina, River Plate. And that has no atmosphere whatsoever when the guys come out. They just walk out, they do the wave to the crowd, and that's it. The second game is a group stage Copa Libertadores game against Santos from Brazil, and they have flares, you've got people on the fences, you've got the atmosphere. Boca come out after the Santos players from an underground tunnel, and that is so much better. And that is what I think that would okay, you might not have people climbing on fences and things like that in every single game, but I imagine there'll be a flare in Argentina at most games. I imagine for a game in a Copa Libertadores it'd be great, but you want to feel that when you click on the game. For those new players that click the game, go into quick play and load up a game, you want them to have that immersive atmosphere straight away. Oh, this is what, they have got this crowd just right. It's really raucous. It's really banging. It's what would be like real life, I imagine, if you saw Boca play any sort of game. It would be absolutely mental. And that is what you want to be. That is what you want to feel as a user and a player of the game. You want it to be this immersive game that sucks you in and wants you to play more. And the atmosphere, along with the visualizations from my first improvement, they need to be upped to make you feel immersive. Yes, the game is about the gameplay, and I do feel that gameplay in PES is better than FIFA, but the atmosphere, the crowd, the visualizations, they all add to the immersiveness of the game, and they need to be improved in PES 2022. So, number 3, and I think this would be popular on many people that play PES and FIFA as an improvement: referees. The referees are absolutely terrible in PES. They aren't very good in FIFA, but I'd say in PES they're really poor. Really poor actually in PES, and it has been for a number of years, and it's because the collision mechanics that are in the game now, they have been updated for PES 2021, but there's so much room for improvement in terms of mechanics. When a player gets to the ball first and then hits the player, it's always given as a foul in PES, when in real life it's not a foul. The referees are absolutely shocking, to be fair. It's just and then there's a flip side to it as well. If you play PES and you don't know about this, basically if you hold sprint, and if you're playing traditional controls, it's sprint and then the trigger, or if you're playing it's trigger and then the RB or the top button, and if you're playing FIFA controls on PES, it's the top button and sprint to do super cancel. If you super cancel and charge straight into someone, it's about 90% of the chance you don't give a free kick away, because the computer thinks you're super cancelling something. And it's very cheeky to use in a game. Obviously, you have to be able to make sure you're going to hit the person. They could just dart around you. But it's incredible to think that the amount of fouls you can give away in PES, but then when you do that, it's not a foul, and you can literally just charge into the back of people, shoulder barge someone while doing super cancel, and it doesn't give away a foul. But I'm not saying get rid of super cancel. That's a superb function of PES. It's so much better than FIFA. If you press to shoot and you don't want to do that, you can dummy shot or super cancel. If you press pass, you can super cancel. If you're sprinting somewhere, you can super cancel. You can super cancel to move your man to go for an overhead kick or a volley rather than a header. And I think that is brilliant. Should be taken out in terms of a defensive tool the player can use against the AI, though. That isn't fair. So I'm not being all AI bashing. I am bashing something that a human can do to get an advantage above the AI, but I think referees need to be looked at in terms of consistency, what's given. Penalties are a huge thing. They need to make sure the computer gives away penalties. I've been fouled so many times in the box and never had a penalty given against me, which is infuriating, and it's only down to, I assume, the referees being programmed pretty rubbish to be a bit more lenient in the penalty box, which shouldn't technically be the case. Now, with referees, something I do want to emphasise is that I don't want to see VAR in football games. It's annoying enough having it in real life. You don't need to see an implementation of VR to make it show that something was correctly given, because that also means that you should have incorrect decisions that are then go to VR and are ruled out, or it's just going to be even more complicated than what we would normally want to see in a computer game. That's taking it too far, I think, implementing VAR, which I think would be a big shame. Number 4, tactical options and tactical ways of playing. Now, this is where PES is way behind FIFA in terms of what you can get individual players to do, how you can get your team to set up, what you want people to do, whether you want them to stay wide. So you can tell on PES, you can say hug the touchline, which pushes your fullbacks and your wingers out towards the touchline. But on FIFA, you could tell your defenders to sit narrow, and you could tell one winger to cut inside and one winger to stay out wide. So much better. You can tell your strikers to run into channels. You can tell your strikers to come deep as a false 9. You can tell your strikers to play as a target man. You can ask your strikers to do all of the above and be a complete forward. In PES, it's so much more limiting. You can't do that. You get advanced attacking instructions and advanced defensive instructions, but they're not good enough. They're not immersive of playing and managing as a team. You need to be able to tell people, right, when in possession, go and run in behind. I don't want you coming towards the ball. I don't want you to come towards the ball. We want to get you in behind and put long balls over the top, for example. You want to be able to tell your midfielders, okay, we're going to have a playmaker and we're going to have a box-to-box midfielder. But you can't do it in PES. You have to rely on their player styles, I think is what they're called in PES. I can't remember what they are. It's not called a trait. I think it's a style. And some of them will have orchestrator, for example, in midfield, which means he will drop off and get the ball. But if you don't know that, as a new player, it's not cohesive to understand what that means. So you've got a leader in the back line, I think it is, that then will if you tell the line to push up, he'll start everyone off and everyone will come in a bit more in line. You'll have strikers that are used as a target man or a fox in the box or a poacher or creative, a goal-scoring winger, things like this. But you don't know what they mean. There's never an explanation to say what they do and how they play. You have to go and watch tutorial videos. I had to watch Spoony Pizza's videos that he puts out. Really good PES YouTuber. Go and check him out. About what some of the individual player titles mean. Because it's so difficult to understand. Goal-scoring winger, like, what does that mean? Naturally, I would just think that means, someone that plays wide, but he does score a lot of goals. But what it means is that he's going to want to get the ball and drive towards the goal. Not that he's naturally going to cut in on his opposite wing and shoot. It just means he's going to want to run towards the goal. And that's really not good for newcomers to the game. And that's what PES should be aiming to do, bringing new people from FIFA who are disenchanted with FIFA, who want something different from FIFA, who maybe want a bit more of a realistic gameplay than FIFA, to come to the game and just be able to drop in and play. And FIFA is much more plug and play friendly. It is much more pick it up, get the controller, oh yeah, pass, shoot, done, bam, wallop, thank you very much. PES is a little bit more intricate. You've generally just got your fans of PES. I'd be amazed to see if their numbers have grown over the years. And I think this is part of the reason why. I'm not saying I want it to be pick up and play like FIFA. I'm not saying I want it to be as sort of arcadey as FIFA with the tiki-taka quick passing going up the pitch. I like the fact you have to build it up from the back. But I feel like there's a lot of things that Konami are doing that they've implemented that hold the game back from welcoming new people in. There is nowhere in the game that allows you to really set up a team how you want it to play. Now, I don't know if that's because if they did implement it, you'll be able to exploit the AI a bit more. But I think for an improvement in PES 2022, on a next-gen console, which will be more powerful, which can read more lines of code at a certain time, it can implement more things at a certain time, it can make the AI think quicker and stuff like that. I think they need to be able to implement individual player instructions or a positional instruction that allows you to do, for example, run into the channel when we get the ball. I want you to try and get in behind. I want you to play as a target man, and we're going to play into your feet. We're going to aim for your head. We're going to play long balls forward to the target man. Some of these things are there, but I don't think it's very easy to implement them. That is probably the biggest improvement I'd like to see in PES 2020, to be honest. And then finally, number 5, we're going for Team ID and player ID to be improved or to be implemented. It's not even improved. It's not really in the game. Why do Burnley play like Barcelona? Why does Stoke play like Barcelona? Why does everybody play like Barcelona? Why do Liverpool play like Man City of 2 years ago? They don't actually play like Liverpool do now. They don't play long balls, diagonal long balls in the game, which they should do. FIFA arguably is, again, set up better for this. They do have a bit more team ID. We'll get on to player ID in a minute, but they do have some team ID for the certain teams they play. But there needs to be more of it in PES. Just selecting that you're a counter-attacking team that play long ball and you have a high defensive line doesn't implement how that team play. Burnley have possession game, long ball, deep defensive line, and then deep defensive line as a team instruction as well. But when they get the ball, they don't just get it and hoof it up to Chris Wood. They'll get it, they'll pass it around the back 4, they'll put it into midfield, they'll try to chip up to Chris Wood, who'll head it down, and then they'll keep the ball and they'll recycle possession. Burnley generally don't do that in real life. Generally, Burnley in real life will play it about the bottom 4, but get to the wing and put a cross in. And they don't really do it in PES. And I've used Burnley as a exaggerated example, let's say. But even Man United aren't. They're a licensed team and they don't play. I mean, Man United are terrible at the moment, but Man United in-game don't play how Man United want to in real life. They don't hit teams on the counter-attack. They're set up to play possession football, which is not what Man United do. They struggle to do that against Brighton. They can't break them down. They wait for teams to come out and then launch with pace on the counter-attack. And you need those team IDs again for the immersiveness and the realism. It's got the play, it's got the build-up, it's got the ability to not be able to pass when you're not facing the right way. It's got all these things built into it. It's just lacking a bit of individuality for the teams. And that also leads on to individuality for the players. And you get Messi. Messi's really good to dribble with. He's incredible. Ronaldo runs like Ronaldo. He jumps like Ronaldo. But he also shoots like every other player. And Ronaldo doesn't shoot the same as everyone else. Neymar doesn't do enough tricks. He does tricks in the French league all the time. They should be implementing these things to be a trickster, to be a tricky player, to run at you as a human person and bring out step-overs and try and send you the wrong way. But he doesn't. He'll run at you, he'll stop, he'll cut back, he'll pass it. He may run at you and do a speed burst to one side. Fine. That's great. Why aren't loads of other players doing that? Why isn't Timo Werner, for example, doing that for Chelsea? Why isn't Adama Traore for Wolves doing that? He doesn't just knock it and run past you, which is his trademark in real life. He likes to just burst past people and get on the ball before they do. He'll do a step over or two. He hasn't got massive skill set, but he knows he's quick. But the AI doesn't do that in PES. You can do it when you control the players if they've got the right skill moves, but I want to see the player ID brought into the game a bit more when the AI control them. Let's see some sombrero turns. Let's see some Zidane roulette turns with other players. Let's see that sort of thing. You should be able to play against legendary Ronaldinho in the game, and once per game, because it's a computer game and he's a legendary player that they've put into the game with licensing, I reckon he should do a flip-flap at least once a game. I know that takes away from the realism because he didn't do it every single game for Barcelona. But you're not going to play as a legend every single game. If you're playing against the AI on a reasonably difficult setting, Ronaldinho should come up to you. I'm not saying it has to be successful. I'm not saying he has to complete it. But if he runs up to you, I want to see him do a flip-flap in the game. Never seen it once, and I've played with him quite a few times. Modded in or however you get them in. I have played with him a few times. And it's that sort of thing. They bring out the shoulder drop a lot, which is good because it is a skill to get around, but it's something that too many players do that wouldn't do it in real life as well, because it's built into the code of the AI. All players can do it. You don't get Van Dijk running at someone, dropping a shoulder and going around them. He will pass the ball off and run on. I'm not saying he doesn't get forward, but he will very rarely do it. He might do a shoulder drop when he's facing the wrong way to shake them the wrong way and drop it to the left and pass the ball to the right when he's facing his own goal, but he's not going to do it running at someone from centre-back. And I've had that in a game against Liverpool where he's run at me, tried to drop a shoulder, and he actually has gone round me, but he would just never do that in real life. And I feel like the player ID, the team ID, really needs to be worked on. It's a very strange way that PES sets up teams to play. And they've tried to build in team ID with having the options of either possession game or counter-attack. Well, that's not strictly true. There's other ways to play. You can play a mix, something that you can't set up for in PES. You cannot tell a team to mix between possession and counter when it's on. Like, you can't tell a team to play mixed range of passing. You can't set them up to play mixed. Obviously, you can as a human player. But when you're setting up the teams at AI, because obviously the default tactics, they all set up are pretty outdated relatively quickly, your options are short pass game or long pass game. Now, that's not very good, is it? Some teams, like Man City, will generally focus on a short passing game. Lots of teams will do whatever passing option is the best. They'll do short passing or long passing, depending on the situation. And you want to be able to build that into the game. That's what you want to be able to control, I think, especially in a Master League, when you've got to adapt tactics and see how they go. And they have the fluid formation, but that's fine. It's limited. PES feels limited in terms of tactics. I think it comes across that I'm passionately talking about tactical ways and how PES is a limited game. I do honestly believe it is more realistic than FIFA. I do. In terms of gameplay, it's more realistic than FIFA because you have to build the game up. You can't just ticky-tacky all your way through or play a quick knock into the corner for a speed merchant just to get on the end of it. You can do that a bit more on manual passing, but I do feel it's more realistic than FIFA. But it's less immersive than FIFA. Master League compared to career mode's brilliant. Career mode is fantastic for how in-depth you can get with the team. Master League, much better for playing it, but for the build-up play, for the actual physical nature of it being like a football game, or a game of football, I should say. But in terms of the immersiveness of the Master League, the cutscenes get really boring, and they only had them in the first, I think, season when you did it last time, and then they repeated ones for transfer deadline day and stuff like that. But yeah, it was pretty rubbish. They're the same in PES 2021. They need to be ramped in PES 22. If I was summing this up, I could probably nail this down to 2 points for improvement. 1, atmosphere and visualization of everything away from the football pitch when you're playing it, when you're actually playing the game. I think the visualization is fine. I think the replays are fine. I think it would be 3 things, because referees would be separate. But visualization and atmosphere would be 1. Referees would be 2. And the point number 3 would be immersion for team tactics and player identification, and getting things to be a bit more individual between all the players. And I think that's why this has now turned into a little bit of a rant, because I did plan this video and I was hoping to get footage of everything I wanted to show you, but I haven't really been able to have the opportunity to do it, because so much of it is a feeling, so much of it is an immersive feeling that I want to be improved in the game. Yeah, you can have goalkeepers sort of need to be improved. Their animations, they're too limited. There's not enough of them. Referees need to be improved. They are things they can definitely improve on, that you can get as a viewer, you can get as a player. The immersiveness of it really needs to be improved. You need to feel like you're managing that team. You need to feel the challenges. You need to feel that when you say in a press conference, this guy that I've just signed might go in the first team, there needs to be a connotation about that. He might get pissed off. You might have said you're going to be a first team player for us, and then when you go in to see your team 11, his arrow goes down, his form arrow goes down. We're not going to get into form arrows. They're an absolute mess. I don't know how you can win a game 5-0, bag a hat-trick, and then your form arrow goes from really high to like down red. Doesn't make sense. But they need to be affected by things you say in a press conference. They need to be affected by other players you sign. They need to be affected by form on the pitch. They need to be affected by all sorts. But again, I'd add that into the immersive realism of the game that needs to be improved. And I think that's what has to come across. So I'm going to leave it there, because I could probably chat a little bit longer. Leave me your comments down below about what you think needs to be involved with PES. Have I got it right? Is there things you would put there above what I've said? I think if you're playing on PC or PlayStation, PES is a superior footballing game, but I think you'd get more longevity out of FIFA. And I'm talking about offline mode only. I don't really play online. I've never really played my club properly. I don't think I've ever played against another human on my club. And FIFA, I never play Ultimate Team, because I think it endorses gambling to a certain extent. But offline mode, I think PES is so much better when I want to play a game which I want to be like football. FIFA, the career mode with FIFA, with Man United and Bury that we did last season, were so immersive, so much easier to get you guys involved in it. I think PES Master League is a bit more of a fast burner thing where you can't do a long-term save, because it would come so repetitive, because the immersion isn't there about how things are being affected by your team, what you say, crowds, everything like that. But that's my thoughts on the game. Let me know what you think needs to be improved for PES 2020 on the next-gen consoles when they come out. Well, obviously, they'll come out in November, but PES 2020 will be coming out next year. So hopefully the delay of the Unreal Engine, moving away from the Fox engine, going to Unreal Engine for PES 2022, hopefully will set PES 22 at a whole new standard. There obviously is the caveat that the last time they moved from one engine to another, when they moved to the Fox engine in 2017, I think it was, maybe 2016, might be even longer than that. It was around that time. The first game they released on a new engine was absolutely shocking. It got derided as the worst PES pretty much ever released. They need to make sure that doesn't happen, because FIFA are going to step it up. They're getting their new engine as well, their new Frostbite engine, and that is going to be superb graphically. Whether it's an improvement on what they've already got, that much, who knows, because the graphics in FIFA are generally quite good. But PES need to make that step. They really, really need to make that step up. FIFA has got a bit complacent recently. PES needs to take advantage of that. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Sorry about it turning into a bit of a rant. I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of the content that's been behind us. It's been varied games, very little scenes. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back very, very soon. But for now, I'm out. Cheers.